Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are covering the function constructors and the function properties. Understanding the functions in JavaScript are actually objects with their own properties and methods. So let's dive in. In JavaScript, functions are first class. In JavaScript, functions are in first class object. JavaScript is an object. This means they can have a properties and methods just like any other object. Just think, this is our function, right? In this function, there is a name and the params, the parameter, and we are returning something, right? Return hello, then the params. Okay. So with the built-in properties, just like using the console log, if we try to execute console log, the name dot params. This is the name of our function, and the param is the this parameter, right? Also, we get this hello, right? This hello, then the actual name. Okay. The another is like suppose the name, it would be name, copy, and this one would be length. And this length will be 1 because there is only one parameters, isn't it? Also, we can add a custom properties if we want. Just like this is a name dot call count equal 0 or name dot version equal 1.0. And then console log the name dot vision. Sorry, this is a vision, not version. This is a no, it's actually yeah, actually a version, and version would be 1, 1.0, right? Yes. Actually, this dual nature make JavaScript function incredibly powerful. In the function constructor, you can create function using the function constructor. Just with the ternary way, check this. This is the so for the traditional way. This is our function, and with the constructor, use the new function. Okay, in this new function, we pass the argument, and it's okay, and we get the value as we want. You see, in the add constructor, this is our constructor. This is the function, and we also get the same result because we return something here for the execution part, right? Actually, the syntax is parameter as a string parameter as a string, then the function body as the last string. This one. So why not to use it? This is the most important question. Why we are not using like that way? Because there is a performance issue. Parts every time. Security risk can execute arbitrary code like poor readability. You see, this is the poor readability. Then this one. This one is cleaner code. And the scope problems. Only access global scope. This one. Okay. And check this. This code, there is a x function is the normal function, and with the new dot function return x, you get an error because only has access of the global scope. But what is happening here? Return x actually work access the other scope, not the this is the inner scope, right? And this is the global scope, and this const is the block scope, and it's one the global scope, but that's why it's conflict. It's rarely used in modern JavaScript. Okay, but understanding it helps you to know how function work initially. So that's why you never ever seen that anyone ever any developer ever calling this with the constructor function. Always use this one because this is a good approach, this is a bad approach for now. Okay, built-in function properties. The first is the name property. Return the function's name as a string. Check this one. This is the function, and we are executing this function. I mean, invoke this function with the name, and we get the calculate total. Actually, this function. And when we are multiplying and use the multiply dot name, we actually get the function name multiply. Okay, useful for debug. Check this one. Log call. First parameter is the function, and the last is the rest parameters. When the arguments as a speed of I mean the rest in this on the rest parameters, right? Then the console log, and then return function, and this return actually this parameter as a function with the rest of the parameters. Okay, so this one is help you for the debugging. Okay, and another is the length property. Right now we are talking about the name property. Now let's see the length property. Length property actually the it's return the number of parameter expected. Check this one. This is your function console log dot length. Length means how many parameter are how many params are exist. You see, the rest params don't count here because there is only 2 parameter available. This one is not counted. Okay, and here we already use the default value. So 1 and stop at the first default. Okay, this one. Another is the prototype property, and this is important. The used for the constructor functions. We will cover this deeply in OOP section. Don't worry. I mean, object oriented programming, the prototype part. Just remember, this property is very, very important. Try to understand. There is a person with this person dot prototype, then grid. Okay, and then execute the another function returning something. And when check this is a function, then use the property grid. And in this property grid, what we did, then we call this person with the constructor, right? And in this constructor, when we call this, and we call this alice.grid. Remember this grid, alice.grid, and we actually get the exact result. Okay, note, arrow function don't have a prototype. Remember, only this prototype have access with the traditional function, not arrow function. Arrow function doesn't have this prototype. In this prototype, there is a lots of thing happening. We will see it later from the browser console. Right now, just try to understand this property also exists. Okay. Now, custom property and the practical use case. The functional counter and the memorization caching. This is important. Caching is important part. Okay. So you can add a custom properties for caching, counter, or metadata. Okay. For function counter, check this one. This is your function. In this function, what we did, function increment, function dot count. Okay, dot count plus plus. That means this function will be increment console log call track call dot count. How many times? And initially count will be 0. Initial count will be 0. When we when we call this function, how many times? 2 times. That's why it's called 1 times 2 times, because 2 times we call this function. Okay, this is the custom property. And another is the memorization. This is a very big chapter, a very big concept for the memorization. Just understand that this is our function, the Fibonacci, and in this function, this Fibonacci dot cache. Initially, cache is 0. There is no cache available. But when we are using this execute this function, and initially this function stored this value here, then after that, when we call multiple time, it automatically execute the value from the cache. This cache. Okay, this is a regular function logic. You see, this is the condition and returning the n with the Fibonacci dot cache. In this cache, there is a properties n. I mean the n, this parameter, and return the cache with this n, right? And result will be the Fibonacci with n minus 1 plus the Fibonacci the n minus 2, and then we get the result from this Fibonacci dot cache and return the actual result. Great. So quickly recap: functions are object with properties. In JavaScript, functions constructor exists, but avoid using it. Don't use unless you specifically need it. Built-in properties, name, length, prototype. Maybe I think I didn't mentioning something here where it is when we are trying to accessing this name. Maybe you notice there is a sign actually highlighted the delete, that because this is stored. That's why it's showing don't use this, because it, you see, deprecated. Don't use the modular as a name. Deprecated. That's why it's showing the delete. Anyway, the custom properties useful for caching and metadata. Okay. Understanding this concept prepares you for advanced topics like prototypes and OOP coming up next. So this is really, really important. Don't skip this part. If this helped, like and subscribe. Drop question in the comments. I will see you in the next video where we cover the variable shadowing and the temporal dead zone.